Now, Ryan Cherki's first full season in English football has been a complete masterclass in chance creation. At 22, the Lyon Academy graduate made a move to Manchester City on a 5-year deal. And with the fee widely reported to be around 36 to 40 million euros, this has been an absolute steal of a signing and one of the best signings of the season. He now is Manchester City's hub of creative control. And for me, this guy is one of the only true ballers, in the Premier League right now that's showing flair, game in and game out. You watch this guy and you're instantly taken back to the good old days. The days where players didn't even care about tactics. They were just doing what they want. I'ma just take the ball past you, do a little Rabona. I'ma just skin you, meg you, put the ball through your legs twice. It doesn't matter if the pass was on before the nutmeg. I'ma nutmeg you and then do the pass. So far this season, he's sitting on 3 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League so far, having played 20 games but not started in all of them. And I think it's that point that makes this guy so disgusting as a player. You don't want him coming up against your team because he's just constantly creating chances whenever he's on the pitch. And with having 5.54 expected assists in just over 1,000 minutes, that is just, world-class metrics. It's not like he's playing every single game, full 90s. In the small minutes that he's getting, he's putting passes into place where people should be scoring and people are scoring. With 34 chances created, 14 big chances created, and 28 successful dribbles. He's also shown that he can deliver in the decisive moments this season so far for Manchester City, like scoring in the Carabao Cup quarter-final and also the semi-final too. A game winner against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League and also, a couple goals in the Champions League too. Now, it's not like Cherki arrived at Manchester City, this unknown player that we didn't think would do anything. He arrived with reputation. Making this move to Manchester City, he was known as a high-ceiling playmaker in football. A production engine coming from the French league that created chances constantly and also was a flair merchant. He could ridicule you but also put a fine ball into the striker for him to score. And after scoring on his league debut against Wolves, it seemed like, his luck had ran out and Manchester City hadn't really fulfilled a position that they needed to fulfill for so long because he would get a thigh injury. But during those 2 months that this guy was, not in the team, not starting football, it was like this guy was in the hyperbolic time chamber, something like Dragon Ball Z. He was, shredding weight, getting lean, and just becoming the ultimate sort of Manchester City player that they needed. A more dynamic version of himself had been evolved and he had gone through a metamorphosis. This guy came back into this Manchester City side looking completely different and showing, pace in areas. He could just take you right, take you inside and leave you on the floor. He was moving mad. And since being kind of reintegrated into this Manchester City side, he's pairing up with the likes of, a newly formed Semenyo and an Erling Haaland up top. Keeping the likes of Phil Foden out of the team, and even when Phil Foden starts, you can see the difference between these two creative midfielders, with one playing with confidence and the other kind of in his shell. Like Ryan Cherki is starting to define how Manchester City are playing in, this season, especially in a time where they're going through some sort of transition in Guardiola's style of play. He can just receive the ball and break the lines by himself, and he's done it multiple times. His ability to also receive the ball and turn on it is also something that you don't see in a lot of footballers, let alone midfielders and number 10s in the game right now. It's a special trait that sets you apart from other footballers, and he is displaying it week in and week out against every single Premier League team that I've seen him go up against. And there's been various occasions where Cherki has shown this 5-star quality, even when playing in the same lineup as a Phil Foden. He's been able to drift off into the right hand side, do a little bit of magic, a Rabona ball into the box, and Phil Foden would head the ball in. And I think it's this unpredictability that he shows that's so different to a lot of our favourite players in the Premier League and in football right now. Not a lot of them have this, bag that they can just go into and pick out any random skill to get around a defender and also bamboozle them in a way, sending them one direction while you're on to the next. And even just recently in Manchester City's Champions League game against Galatasaray, Cherki was just running the entire show. Whilst also scoring in the game, this guy was dictating the entire tempo. And just think about how his numbers and his overall season would look if he didn't have that injury at the start of it. Because it was the opening day of the Premier League on the 16th of August 2025. And in a game where he would make his debut off the bench and score, everyone knew that this was the real deal. But then that injury hit and he goes down. And after that game, he would miss out on Premier League action until the 18th of October. And then eventually he would find his flow. By the 2nd of November, he was already, impacting this side. Getting 2 assists in a 3-1 win against Bournemouth. Then against Sunderland, another 2 assists. Then a goal and assist against Nottingham Forest. A goal against Tottenham, a goal against Brentford in the Carabao Cup, another one against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. And again, with a player like this, once he finds his stride and he finds his flow, the confidence starts to ooze off of him. Like this sort of aura around him when he goes into games. And that's where you've seen these highlights where he's, getting the ball, smiling and just nutmegging a man before making a lovely diagonal ball to the opposite wing. He's done that multiple times. He can, get and wriggle you out of tight situations. He's showing that he is honestly the only real number 10 in football, yet he doesn't just play number 10 for Manchester City, he also floats out on the right hand side. I remember in Manchester City's game against Tottenham this season, he was just, full flow. I think it was the entirety of either the first half or the second half, it was just Cherki. He was just taking over that right hand side, leaving Tottenham defenders on the floor going one way. It was reminding me of, the days of watching Samir Nasri at Arsenal where he would just do a fake shot and leave an entire defense on the floor. Ryan Cherki is 22 years old and he has the potential to be special. And it's not just me saying that. Earlier on I talked about his numbers and the numbers show it too. I mean, it's his first season with Manchester City and he's already, top of creation outcomes for the entire side, meaning he is the player in the entire squad that has created the most. Top for league assists, top for expected assists, and also top for chances created. And reminder, he's not competing, in these stat categories with bums. He's competing with other, international players. Phil Foden, Tijani Reinders, guys that were leading, this Manchester City side. Tijani Reinders, who was leading AC Milan in creation. But no, it's Cherki, who sometimes doesn't even play the games fully. He comes off the bench and still will make more of an impact than the entirety of their midfield. Like even in one of Manchester City's biggest games this season, Cherki was only playing 29 minutes against Liverpool and still made impact and even nearly got the goal that was eventually ruled out and gave, Dominik Szoboszlai a red card. But in that game, the moments, 29 minutes still, he was able to create a chance. He was able to do and, do things that the other players that were on the pitch couldn't do. Now, Cherki entered the Lyon Academy graduate scheme and eventually would see success in the pipeline. Boasting 185 appearances for his boyhood club, he showed before coming to Manchester City as a youngster that he already had the experience and capabilities to do it on a bigger stage. And with his senior debut coming in October of 2019, followed up by his first goal for the club in 2020, he would become Lyon's youngest ever goal scorer. He was also the youngest ever player to appear in the Champions League semi-final when Lyon brought him on against Bayern Munich back in 2020. And despite losing the tie not really affecting, he would see himself be in and out of this Lyon side in the upcoming years. And up until the 2024-25 season, you really saw, his potential kind of become actuality and his actual skill. During that season, he would get 12 goals and 20 assists in all competitions, showing a level of output that attracted clubs like Manchester City to really, pique their ears at a youngster that was balling out in a different country. And as well as affecting Ligue 1 games, he would affect the bigger games in that league season when they were playing in the likes of the Europa League against Rangers. I remember watching that game and seeing Cherki not really knowing who he was, but after the game researching and finding out who he was. And after 3 seasons of over 35 games in all competitions for Lyon, eventually Manchester City swooped in for a fee that honestly, looking back in 5 years from now, will be one of the biggest bargains in football history. Well, I mean, that's the trajectory that it looks like he's about to go on, because he's showing that he can be the guy that revives the position of a number 10. And for context, Ryan Cherki is also 22 years of age. 22, born in 2003. And while still being so young, he performs like a dominant superstar, someone that's been at Manchester City for a bunch of years, someone who can be put up there as one of the best players in his age category. You know, don't forget, he's in the same age group as the likes of Jude Bellingham, Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala. Ryan Cherki is there too. And with this season being far from over, it could be him in these decisive moments that take Manchester City to compete up there with Arsenal for getting this Premier League. It's a race that is going down to the wire right now. And as, we're midway through February, talking about Ryan Cherki is not the only thing on people's mind. It's, will he start 90 minutes week in and week out for Manchester City in this run of games that they need guys like Cherki to create the chances to go on this winning streak to compete with Arsenal for this title? What will happen at the end of the season? And is this just a purple patch for Ryan Cherki, or is this the start of a dynasty at Manchester City? A dynasty that is being led by a North African descendant and French international, Ryan Cherki. Will he be the creative hub for France in the World Cup this season? Or will he be left out of the starting 11 come the World Cup? Let's find out. And also, you guys leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and let me know if there's any other players that we need to talk about like this one. This is kind of the format now. We're just going to start talking about some of my favorite players in football and also some other stuff on this channel. But yeah, you guys suggest me videos, get active in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.